I'm 19 and I've been living with a disability my whole life practically. When I was 1 year old, I remember it was in Germany that I was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, or shortly is like SMA. And whole life, like people were asking me, how does one live with disability? How does one battle it and goes to the world knowing that he has physical limitations? And a lot of times it is very difficult. I'm not gonna lie. There are some particular situations. There may be just physical, or there may be like social norms that I cannot do as a person with disability that really are difficult to go through. But over these 19 years that I've been living in a wheelchair practically, I think I've learned some lessons that people who don't have a disability should learn in some point of their life. So in this video, I'm gonna share those and how a difficult situation for me was applied into a lesson that I could apply practically, and maybe it will serve you too. So to give you a little bit of context, my disability is like the one that is degrading over time. So I could walk until 4 years old, and at that point I could no longer walk. I could just crawl and do some other physical exercises, but I was not able to walk anymore. Then later on I stopped crawling and I was not able to do it. And now, for example, I am able to do some exercises at home, although the majority of time I spend like seated, or when I'm sleeping obviously laid down. And so this kind of disability really gives you weakness in your muscles, no matter what part of your body. So it's not like I cannot walk and that's it. I cannot, for example, lift my arm very up. That's the maximum I can do. And so a lot of times when I go to some place, let's just say an example is like I go to pay something with the card and the card reader is up here. I cannot do it and I need to ask the cashier to lower the card reader. So there are a lot of like these small uncomfortable moments that I have to go through. And so you can visualize it, like how weak I actually am is like the maximum amount of weight I can lift is like 1 kilo and 700 grams approximately. For all Americans watching, I don't know how much this in pounds, but you know what I mean. And so, yeah, these are the lessons that I've actually learned to bear with myself. So the first one is actually that asking for help is okay. And like obviously, I'm speaking from my perspective, and you have to translate it to your daily life and how you will be able to apply it. But I would say for me, it is okay ask for help, although it is uncomfortable socially. But when you do not have another opportunity to do anything, you just have to ask. Like an example I can put you, it's me going on the street, and then I usually put my phone over here, so like on my lap, and it falls down for some reason. And so if it falls down, I cannot physically get up and take it. And so here I have to rely on the kindness of strangers. And if there is a person going by, I just go and I ask him, hey, could you get me my phone because it fell down? And there is no other options. And yeah, this case happened to me probably dozens of times already. But there are other cases that you can apply this to. Because if, for example, if you're feeling not well mentally or emotionally, sometimes people tend to isolate themselves and just trying to like punish themselves and being the cycle of guilt tripping where you shame yourself something you did or something happened and you grieve about it and you cannot escape it and there is nobody you can talk to. And so I also applied it for myself that you should talk with somebody actually in that case. You should be able to ask for help, and if it's not mental, emotional, it may be something else in your life. And it is totally okay to ask because the majority of cases, people won't say no to your ask. People would like to help because it's naturally in our nature to help other people. The altruism actually exists. We just simply try to ignore it. And so, yeah, it's okay to ask for help. And so the second thing is actually it relates to the first point. In it, you cannot do it on your own. For instance, I cannot go and bath myself on my own. I require help with somebody to do it for me. I cannot go and poop on myself. I need somebody to go and help me. And so a lot of times we try to do it ourselves, me included, and we try to force our own strength, force our own resilience to go through something when we actually cannot do it physically. It is impossible for us because we're still human beings who have limited power, limited strength, limited energy, and in some cases, limited amount of money that you can spend on something. And so in that case, when I found God last year, it really helped me because knowing that I am not capable of doing the majority of things I want to do, it really relieves you from the pressure that you put on yourself. And instead, you try and put that into somebody who can do it. And this example is Jesus Christ, who can do the things you cannot do. He can bear shame, he can bear your yoke, he can bear the difficulties you're going through, and you can ask him for strength, for patience, for wisdom, and whatever it is you're going through, he will give it to you because he is a faithful God. You cannot completely heal or reinvent yourself just by your own thing. Instead, the wise decision should be ask somebody who can do it. And then there is another one, and it's there is wisdom in suffering actually. Sometimes I think like, why would God place me in such situation? Why would God limit my capability to achieve something? And I think sometimes that, well, if I had this, I'll be able to do this without any problem, and I would not have to suffer in the middle of it. Why would God not give exactly to me the point B that I want to have? But then I realized, and it's happened a lot of times, that I think, oh, but if I already had the point B, this point, and I didn't have the mentality to maintain the point B, I wouldn't be able to maintain it. And so, how do you have the ability to maintain something? You cannot learn it by theory. Usually, you have to be put through a storm. Usually, you have to suffer to be able to see that, oh, actually I suck at this and I'm good at this. And if I combine those, apply my strengths on correct places and apply my and like I reduce my weaknesses, then I'll be able to have it myself. And then you have the wisdom to actually maintain it. And so in each situation that you're going through, and maybe it's a cycle that repeats itself, maybe it's a pattern that repeats itself, or maybe it's something, a particular situation. You have to ask yourself, it's like, okay, what exactly God is trying to teach me? What exactly is this happening to me? Why? Because usually, yeah, I mean, there are situations that suck. I cannot deny it. I'm a living example of this. But usually there's wisdom in those. And so if we actually ponder on that and think and are able to be grateful in the moment and thank for the things we have, we are able to see it because we humble ourselves to the point of, oh yeah, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe I need to learn how to be this and to be able to do that. So it needs to have a lot of self-reflection and introspective thoughts. You know how I mentioned that people usually are altruistic to help and are willing to help you because it's like something that it's in our nature. Okay, okay. So the next lesson is be patient. Now let me explain. So you know how I mentioned that sometimes, well, the majority of times people are willing to help and they are altruistic, and it's something in our nature to help other people. But there are some cases where they don't want to help you. It happened to me in several situations in my life where even family members are not willing to help you with something, even if it's a small thing. And so, if you don't have other options, or you may have other options, the wisest thing actually to do is just wait. Because if you think you are stuck in a certain point, like in the box, and like you try to punch through the wall of it, and like your punches don't go through, the thing is usually just wait. Let's see what happens. Maybe somebody opens that door for you, and you're able to escape the box. Because if you try it with your own punches, and it never led to results, why would you try it again the same method? I don't remember who said it, but somebody said like the definition of a crazy man is try to do the same things over times and expect to have different results. So maybe you have to wait on the person who you want something from. Maybe it's like I don't know, a girl you like, a boy you like. Maybe it's a business partner or a business that wants to do something with your business. Maybe you just have to wait and trust what God has for you. Because usually the answers don't come in the moment. They come later on, maybe weeks, maybe months, sometimes even years. And when they come, you actually realize, oh yeah, so, I'm glad that I waited. It was better that way. So an important thing to understand here is that you're not forsaken, and you're not abandoned if you're trying to achieve something and it doesn't come the way you want it to. It just means that maybe it requires some other time. God always takes care of you. Takes care of you. Um, for example, there is the parable of the birds in the sky, and Jesus says that you know how the birds are flying in the sky, and they do not think that the word in English is sow, but they do not sow and they do not reap, and yet they still feed themselves. Still, the Father feed them. If that is the case, then how much more valuable than the birds you are, Father? Much more, right? And so, if it is the case, then you'll be taken care of just in the time that is convenient for you specifically, a time that's specifically good for you. So, just, you know, have patience. And I would argue this, the last one, is probably the most important one. And I would argue that this last one is probably the most important thing, and it is to be grateful what you already have. And I know it sounds weird from a guy who sits in a wheelchair. What can I be grateful for? But actually, if you think about it, it's many things. Sometimes I ponder, and it's like, yeah, I have a disability, and it sucks a lot. It's like I cannot do a lot of things. But I think, oh, but there are actually people who have worse disabilities than me. Imagine being paralyzed. Like that'd be crazy, bro. Like I wouldn't be able to be paralyzed. I don't know how those people endure, because I at least can do some things. I can eat by myself. I can brush my teeth by myself. I can go out on the street. But a person who is completely paralyzed, he can do anything, like anything at all. He depends 100% on other people or people who have mental disabilities. Like, I would argue that it is better to have a physical disability than have a mental one. Like, imagine how difficult it would be to a person with Down syndrome or something worse. Like, I know, all glory to them, or it's better to say, praise them for their endurance. But I mean, it is difficult, right? And so you have to think sometimes and compare yourself. Yeah, who can be worse than me? And I know, to a lot of people, their family told them, for example, there are people in Africa who don't have food to eat and they starve. And like when somebody says this to you, they're trying to like guilt trip you, and you don't actually realize what they're trying to say. But it's actually pretty true. There are people who are far worse than you, and yet you're still alive, and yet you're still here. You have many things that people don't have. So why are you not being grateful? And so I would suggest that you just find some things that you are grateful for, that you are able to watch this through internet, you're able to have water, clean clothes, good food. I, for example, love coffee, and I'm able to sit here and drink coffee while I'm speaking to the camera. A good camera, by the way, good iPhone. And so, isn't this a blessing? A lot of times, the life that we have is actually quite better than we think it is. And it happens, for example, when you live in a beautiful city. I would argue that if you live in New York, for example, like it's a great city, and you live there, and you don't realize that you live there because it's a city of dreams for a lot of people. People who heard that song, like what's the song by Alicia Keys and Jay-Z? It's like people would love to live in New York, but when you live in it constantly, you just forget how beautiful the city is and how great it is. So the same thing is with your life. Just you have to step out of your comfort zone and look at it from the third perspective, and just be grateful for what God has given you. Because if He has given you this, then it is probably necessary for your character development. These are the main things I just wanted to tell. And about all the things I said to you right now, talk to God, pray to Him. If you're not a believer, just try it. I swear to you, like, it is the greatest thing that will ever happen to you. the most drastic change that has ever happened to my life, and the most drastic increase of happiness and joy and peace that I ever had is when I started praying constantly. Like it does really measurable, quantitative, and big change to your life. So just try it and pray constantly to Him. He'll comfort you, He'll give you rest, and He will take care of you because He is a good, loving God who loves you very, very much. He loves you so much that He was able to send His own Son to be crucified and to die for you. That's how much He loves you. Okay, bye bye.